I saw something this week that talked about how, sometimes in life we go through periods of uncertainty where you feel like you're checking before both ways, you're looking both ways before you cross the street and then getting hit by an airplane. And I really feel like that was kind of the way that this week went for me, but we knit our way through it. So let's talk about that. Hi, I'm Harriet. Welcome to my channel if you're new here, and if you've been coming back for a while, welcome back. I'm very pleased and happy that we've added a bunch of new subscribers. So just quickly who I am, why I'm here. So I've been knitting and crocheting for over 40 years. I took up spinning back in 2022. I also do a little bit of weaving, although not as much as I would like to because there are only so many hours in a day. And so this channel is where I come to talk about my challenges and goals and interests in the fiber arts. And this is my weekly, or bi-weekly actually, I think now, episode where I talk about the projects that I've been working on over the course of the past week or two. So this episode in particular, I think, is going to prove to be all about the stripes, right? Because for some reason, ever since the weather started to warm up, I seem to keep knitting colorful stripy things. And that's good. But so I'm wearing my striped top today kind of to celebrate that. So this is the Stripy Raglan by Amy Christoffers, and it is knit in Isabel Levold's Hempathy. And I actually started this, it's kind of a fun little nostalgic moment for me because I started this top exactly a year ago, and I remember that because I was working on it when I was at Knit City Toronto and listening to the yarn harlot Stephanie Pearl McPhee talk about becoming a smarter knitter, or smart knitting in general. So I've got my striped top on, and let me talk about the other projects that I've been working on over the course of this past week. Okay, so on a whim, I decided that I wanted to work on the Stripe Hype sweater by Veronica Lindberg. Her name is also Kutuva Kika on Ravelry. And this is a popular pattern that you've probably seen it lots of places. And I decided that I'm knitting this as a gift for a friend, and I've decided to use cotton to do it. And so I'm using Paintbox yarns, cotton yarns, which I believe I found on sale. And I'll talk about the colors in a minute, but the stripe, I've decided that rather than have lots of randomly different colored stripes, my friend's daughter would like to have it probably in blue. So she once had she's had a couple of nice light blue sweaters that she likes. And so I decided, let's try it for the Stripe Hype sweater. Okay, so I'll put a picture up on the screen of what I've worked on thus far. But basically, I've just striped this out with different colors of blue. All right, so this is, I'm knitting the Stripe Hype in Paintbox Yarns Cotton DK, and the main color that I'm using is Duck Egg Blue. And then the other colors that I'm using are Kingfisher Blue, Marine Blue, Royal Blue, Jewel, and Dolphin Blue. So I feel like I got lucky with the colors of blue that were available in this yarn because I think they all kind of coordinate really well together. And so the idea behind it was to start with the darkest blue up here at the top, and then kind of sequence down with slightly lighter blues, and then put the brighter kind of, I think, this is the Dolphin Blue, I think, and I think this is the Jewel, but don't hold me to that. Put those on the sleeves. And so as you can see, I've finished most of it. I've got one more sleeve left. And the nice thing about this sweater, and similar to with the Farnham sweater, is that knitting the stripes often feels like it goes faster. I don't think it really does, but it does feel like it does. For me, it's also going a little bit faster because I'm finally actually working with a DK weight yarn instead of the fingering weight yarns that I've been working with a lot. And I also, on this one, I decided to do the, it calls for an Italian bind off on the neck and on the cuffs. And you do that in a different color, so I did do that. I don't often do other types of bind offs because I just often don't like them, especially sewn bind offs. I'm not always keen on how they look. I know probably in a rare crowd there, or a small crowd there. If you're someone who also just prefers long things like, your basic bind off, let me know down in the comments. But this time I decided, okay, I'll give it a whirl, in part because doing the neckline on the cuffs, obviously one of the difficulties of doing a sewn bind off is that if you have, doing around the ribbing at the base, for example, you end up with this very long stretch of yarn that you have to kind of pull through each stitch. So it can be pretty fiddly and pretty cumbersome. But so I put on the cuffs, right, the darker yarn from the top, and I think I changed that up a little bit. And similarly, I picked a different color yarn up for this, so that rather, I just wanted it to kind of coordinate a little better and kind of hold together a little more cohesively. So I liked how this first stripe on the sleeve matches this, and then kind of carrying that dark color down onto the cuff, I thought was practical. Okay. And I'm pretty optimistic that if I can get that second sleeve cast on this weekend, that I'll be able to finish it over the next few days. And yeah, and then I'm happy with it. I like this pattern a lot. I think it's very accessible, it's enjoyable. So far, everything about it, stripe pipe sweater, really enjoying. Okay, so this past Saturday was local yarn store day in the United States, and the yarn store that's local to me was, having all of the yarn store day kind of specials, but also they were having a trunk show by Woolens and Nosh, who is an indie dyer, I think out of Vermont, and they do some really beautiful self-striping yarn. And so I walked in the door and spotted this. All right, and just had to have it. Right, and so this is what it looks like caked up. I'll see if I can put a picture of the skein here as well so that you can see it, right? Because the skein and the cake really don't do justice to how beautiful it looks once it's been knit up. And so this colorway is called Repotting Sprouts. So perfect for springtime, and kind of ticked off the stripey boxes for me. And so I picked this up on Saturday and promptly decided I needed to cast it on. So for the cuff and for the heel, I'm just doing a heel flap and gusset heel. So I've turned the heel on this one, started the second one to kind of keep the to sort of have the stripe pattern be consistent across the two socks. But this is Barocco Vintage sock yarn in the colorway Smoke that I'm using. And so yeah, this was a happy Saturday acquisition for me. As I mentioned in the intro leading into this, kind of had a surprising week with some bad life stuff happening to those around me, and I was kind of feeling a bit worse for wear on Saturday. So this helped greatly, right? Being able to knit and to knit something cheerful, right? One of the things that I've read talks about how part of developing resilience in life, which I think we all eventually have to do, is kind of trying to recognize that there are just things that you yourself can't control, and that you need to control what you can and acknowledge that life happens and it isn't always what we want, right? That life can be unpredictable. And so in times like these, I try to remind myself that sometimes life's unpredictability can actually be a good thing, right? So I try to kind of take a mental inventory of all the times life proved unpredictable that actually worked out well. And that helps offset, right, that sense of what happens when life is unpredictable in a way that's not so good. But the flip side to that is, you know, to focus on things in your control. And I feel like for me, there's something very therapeutic about knitting a self-striping sock, right? It doesn't demand that I change colors. The colors are beautiful. And I can sort of watch the progress. So for me, psychologically, I think it helped me feel a little bit of a sense of control over a small thing, even if some of life's big things are not cooperating right now. Okay, so the last work in progress that I have now is also a bit of a whimsical cast on, and it's not really striped, but it's got a kind of gradient color going to it. And so I acquired this particular yarn. This is Cirrus Rainbow. And the colorway is Lemon Lime Bubblegum. Really a great name for it. And I'm working on the Holly top, Holly spelled Holly, by Ursula McGrath. And it's a top for the daughter, another daughter of another friend of mine. So I haven't gotten too far on it. This is what it looks like knit up. I'm just peeking over. Yeah, I think the color is maybe showing up a little brighter. I confess I'm a little bit, right now I'm a little disappointed in how it's knitting up because I feel like it looks brighter in the skein, and then the colors are kind of shaping up to be a little bit washed out. Although I do kind of like this little diamond sort of pattern that it's making across the front or the back of this garment. And basically this is a very simple garment in stockinette. You do rows of garter stitch for the edging, and then you're basically just knitting two stockinette stitch pieces that will be identical, and then you seam them together. So I liked it because it looked very simple. I ended up kind of getting caught up working on my stripe hype sweater instead, and then my socks. So this has kind of been set aside a little bit, but I'm gonna return to it because I'm kind of wondering whether I'll like the way it looks a little bit better once I get the other colors in the sequence knit into it. I don't know. There's something about, I think maybe I thought the pink was gonna be a little bit brighter than it's turning out to be when it's spread out across the stockinette stitch. I don't know. We'll see. I think that my friend's daughter, she's 6, I think now, so pretty sure she'll like it regardless. We'll see. Okay, and then the last thing that I have to show you for today is some spinning that I've been doing. And so I've mentioned before that I'm getting the subscription fleece top subscription from Three Waters Farms, and so I actually finally finished spinning up the colorway from January. Yes, I know I'm a few months behind, and so I did two things with it. So in this particular skein, I did a chain ply. So this is basically what that looks like, and I did okay. Right, I'm an emerging spinner, right? I took up spinning in 2022, late 2022, and so I'm just sort of working on it. I think in the last episode I mentioned that I was doing long draw, practicing this because I ended up with two fleece tops from January, and so I was practicing long draw, and so I did finish spinning up a whole bobbin full using long draw. Kind of glad that process is over, right? Yeah, it's just that sort of frustration because I'm, faster now at, spinning short forward draft than I am at spinning long draw. And also because this was not, like for long draw, I think you want to usually use a fleece that has a longer staple length, and I did not, because I was just using the thing that I had a duplicate of. So it might have gone a little bit easier if it hadn't done that. So it was good to practice it. I also had some leftover white that I spun up from just a sampler that I got of lots of different types of top. And so I used some of it to make this one. Right, and I think yeah, I think it's kind of fun to see the difference between the two, right? That you have the same, that is one of the things that I like best about spinning, is that you can have, you know, the exact same fleece as someone else, and yet the way you spin it up is going to look different. And I feel like with my spinning, that's where I enjoy most, sort of playing with color and just being random. Right? When I'm knitting, I tend to be, I think, a little bit more cautious about choosing colors and wanting things to be sure that I know what I'm going to get in the finished project. And so for me, I think it's very freeing for me to do spinning, because I don't know what I'm going to get in the final product. I mean, and there are ways that I could get better at planning what I'm going to get in the final product, but right now anyway, I just feel like I don't really care. Like I like the freedom that comes with spinning and kind of playing with color. And I know a lot of people do that, you know, with their knits as well. So yeah, it's just a kind of different mindset that I like to cultivate, and spinning helps me to do that. Okay, so that's it for today. No finished objects for this particular episode, but fingers crossed I'll have, you know, at least one, if not two, for the next episode. So if you enjoyed this content or found it interesting or valuable, please consider liking and subscribing. I'm, putting a push on to try to get more subscribers. We've got a whole bunch more. I think about almost 20 more just since the last episode, which is great. I'd like to see the community grow. And so if you have any questions or comments, please be sure to drop them below, and I will see you next time around.